Welcome to the They to We Leadership Podcast, where we unpack the hard truths about management. Many professionals excel at the work itself, but when they step into management, everything changes. Each episode, we explore why so many struggle with that shift and how reconnecting with your people, your purpose, and your identity as a manager can make all the difference. Sitting in my office one day and I got a phone call, and I looked at caller ID and it said the Honolulu Police Department. And to be honest, you always pick up the phone when it's from the Honolulu Police Department because I had never been to Honolulu or Hawaii at that time. So I picked up the phone, and the person on the other end of the phone was the police commissioner for the Honolulu Police Department. And he asked me if I could help him with a project he was working on. And the project was that he had to develop a series of questions to select the new police chief that they were looking for, and that there were 3 captains going up for that job. And they were all well trained. They had a lot of experience, so forth and so on. And he said, but I heard you speak in California at a conference, and it hit me that what I'm hunting for is not that person's resume, but I'm hunting for a good person, a person with a good heart. And I said, really? He goes, yeah. He said, I think when it comes to leadership, obviously character is the elephant in the room. And he said, I was struck by that. And so here's what I'm asking you. How do you test someone's humility in an oral interview? How can you ask questions to see who across from you is the best person that doesn't take themselves seriously, who cares for people and is patient, and all the attributes of leadership? I used 3 questions when I was with an agency, and that I felt told us who this person was. And I said, let's go through those, and you can tell me if you would be interested in this. And I said, the first question that I would ask them is, what are 3 weaknesses that affect you? What's wrong with you? And why I think that question is important is because everybody knows what's wrong with everybody else, because they're always looking around and measuring how everybody else is an idiot, but they don't tend to be self-aware. And self-awareness is one of the rarest qualities and a major foundation of the concept of humility, which means low-minded. I'm not special. It doesn't mean you hate yourself. It means that you're just one of the other people around you. It is a very rare quality in human beings, but it's also the foundation of the leader who works with people instead of over them, shows compassion when somebody makes a mistake because they make the same mistake, so forth and so on. So I told him, I said, so ask them the first question, what are 3 weaknesses that affect you and what is wrong with you? And I told him, I said, now I'm going to tell you the number 1 answer you're going to get. And he said, what is that? I said, this was by far the number 1 answer. And always the answer I got, or not always, but the vast majority of the time, the response to that first question was, would you repeat the question? And he started laughing and said, why would they ask that? I said, because they're stalling, because they don't know the answer. Now, if you'd ask them what's wrong with the police department, if you ask them why most managers are idiots, they would have all kinds of answers for that, because they're always pointing the finger at other people. But if you really think about it, the only person you can change is yourself. And that's why humility and self-awareness is so rare. So you ask them that. And I said, and I'll be honest with you, Commissioner, I don't think you're going to get people to answer 3, because this is a tough question and most people can't answer. He said, wow, okay. He said, what's the second question? I said, the second question is, what are you doing about these weaknesses? Be specific. And I said, that is testing, are they doing something about those weaknesses? Are they taking responsibility for those weaknesses and attempting to reduce them in their lives? And I said, and what you'll find is that if they did list a weakness to the first question, that many times they will blame the cause for that weakness on other people. And one of the examples I always remember, a common kind of weakness that all of us will admit that we do, is that we say things we shouldn't say. So they will say, yeah, I hurt people's feelings and I say things I shouldn't say. So when you ask the second question, so what are you doing about these weaknesses? Be specific. Many times they defended themselves. Well, I can't help it if I'm surrounded by idiots. People make me mad sometimes. And what they were doing was they were shifting blame to that weaknesses that they listed in the first question, that it's caused by other people. They're not responsible. They're not taking ownership for it. And I told him, I said, now the third question is the most important because it tells you why most people are having trouble with the first and second question. And he said, okay. I said, the third question is name 3 or more people who hold you accountable for these weaknesses and how do they do it? And he said, please explain that. I said, the reason that they don't know their weaknesses and they're not doing anything about it is because they have people in their life who are afraid to tell them that they're making mistakes, that this is an area they're weak in, that they have big toes, they take things too personal. But the reason that they don't know is because people are afraid to tell them the truth. And that is very common, what Solomon called the fear of man. We naturally don't want to tell people something that they might get mad at us. But I said, if you have 3 or more people in your life who care enough about you that you actually make them do it, tell you the truth when you're being stupid, then you're not going to be so stupid. And those weaknesses, not only will you reduce them, but you are asking other people to help you. And you got to remember, they have a better view of what you're actually doing, which is leadership is a doing thing, not an intellectual concept. They see the real you. And so you have 3 or more people in your life who basically are seeing eye dogs for you to help you in what you're doing that is making you ineffective and how you can turn it around. And it was interesting that he said, so why 3? And I think that is an important question. And the reason it's got to be 3 or more, and you'll notice I said 3 or more, is because of the fear of man, that we don't like to tell people when they're wrong. Rarely will a person come to you, even if you ask them to do it. Very seldom will they come and tell you when you're wrong, because we don't want people to be mad at us. So they will a lot of times not come at all. And more importantly, if they do come because they care for you, what is the natural reaction of being confronted by an individual, even if they're your friend, when you're being told you shouldn't have handled the briefing like that? You clearly talked down to everybody. You were irritated. What is your natural reaction? And I do agree that this is the most common reaction to an attempted accountability by even your best friend, is that when it's one-on-one, you will naturally litigate and defend yourself because the numbers are equal. So you're going to go, it's going to turn into a little trial where you're going to defend yourself and do what we always do naturally when we defend ourselves, when we feel that somebody is telling us something we don't want to know. And I told him that that is only going to be eliminated if you have a multitude of people to do it. One, they will come and confront you when they know they're not doing it by themselves. And if you pick 3 people to do it, or 4, there's always one that doesn't want to do it. But now a new dimension has come into play. The other 3 are willing to do it, and they will confront you for your cowardice of not wanting to come. And And the magic words that always make us so much more effective is let us go. Notice the pronoun there. Let us go. The power of the group makes you follow through if you've been asked to hold people accountable. And when there's 3 or 4 people going, they will go. Without one person will not go. 3 or 4 will. More importantly, the person being confronted will not only hear, but will see the nonverbal behaviors of everyone nodding in agreement, chiming in if necessary, said, yeah, the way you handled that staff meeting, you didn't do yourself any favors. And you are more likely, instead of litigating, you will hear what they have to say and take ownership for it. Because in a way, it's not litigation between 2 attorneys. It is a jury who has come to a conclusion that what you did was not appropriate or was wrong. And what is so neat about that, if you have that in your life, the first 2 questions on the Honolulu questions are easy. You know that you have big toes. You know that you are fearful of getting in trouble, and that's why you don't deal with issues, which is the most common complaint we hear against law enforcement managers. You will not do what you need to do if it's just your decision. But when you have men and women in your life who put you in the fight and keep you there and hold you accountable, you will do it. And that's why you know the answers to what are your 3 weaknesses. I have big toes. I don't always follow through. And I take things personal. The reason you know that is because people have told you that. See, it's not self-awareness. It's awareness brought on by the counsel of other people. It was interesting. Solomon said, with a multitude of counselors, there's wisdom. That basically other people see what you're doing and overcome that self-deception in your life. And as a result of that, you're doing leadership together and you're having people in your life keep you on the straight and narrow, keeping you in the fight, giving you the courage to do what you need to do. And that's why I use those questions. And I think that's why those 3 test questions are so powerful, because they bring out not only the fact that you don't know how you're doing, but it also gives you a solution. And by their inability to answer the first 2 questions, it gives them hope that, or the necessity, I need people to tell me the truth. And anytime you can accomplish that in somebody's life, you are going to help them. Thanks for joining us on the They to We Leadership podcast. If today's episode helped you think differently about management, take a moment to reflect and then apply it. Because real leadership isn't what you say, it's what you do next. And the real enemy is our pride and blindness on how we are really doing. Only with the help of others can we truly make an impact on those around us.